Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing amazing. So for today's video, we are going to be going through my August reading wrap up, and I actually managed to read 8 books, which is quite a lot for me, especially considering last week I still had 3 books left on my August TBR. I have to admit, one of them I have not read, but I did get through the other 4, so I'm pretty pleased with that. We've had a whole range of ratings for this month because I've had a 2-star and I've also had a 5-star, but without further ado, let's jump into it. So the first book I read, I actually started in July, but I finished it in August, and that is All the Colours of the Dark by Chris Whitaker. Now, for the longest time, I was going to give this one a 2.5 rating, but actually the ending clawed its way back up for me, so in the end I did rate this one 3 stars. So for this one, the plot is actually really vague on the back, and I am actually someone that likes to follow suit. Sometimes I think the magic in reading is not knowing too much about the contents inside. This is a coming of age story of Patch and Saint, and actually this one is told through multiple timelines. So we start off when they are very little, very young, childhood best friends, and something very traumatic happens to Patch. And basically the town does not know where he's gone. He's just kind of gone missing off the face of the earth. But rather than Saint just accepting that, she tries to track him down. She wants to find out what has happened to her best friend. So on the back, it does say they are reunited, and Saint does actually figure out what's happened to Patch. And we are then going through multiple timelines of them coming into adulthood and how their friendship has evolved. But there is a kind of thriller subplot going on throughout this book. And I think that's all I'm going to say, because I think if I say anything more, it might give away spoilers, and I definitely don't want to do that. So the reason why I wanted to read this one is because I have heard amazing reviews, but on the back it does say a searing thriller. Now I'm just going to put it straight to you, this does not read like a thriller. There's drama involved. I feel like, yeah, I was reading a lot of drama, but I wouldn't say it was necessarily a thriller. There is a subplot that could be considered thriller, and events do happen which are very deep and are definitely in the thriller bracket, but ultimately I would not class this as a thriller book, and I think that's why I didn't gel with it as much. Because it was marketed to me as a thriller, that's what I was expecting, and I definitely did not get that. The beginning of this book, it started off so strong. I was hooked. Obviously something tragic happens to Patch, and I couldn't get enough. I was literally turning page after page after page. But I have to admit it, the middle portion of this book was so boring, and I'm so sorry. I hate to say that about a book, because obviously a book is for entertainment, but I was really bored. But a good thing is that the chapters are so short. Like on average, a chapter is 2 pages. So even though I was bored, it was quite easy to carry on reading, and scattered throughout the middle there was little cliffhangers, you know, which made me think, okay, let's carry on reading because I want to know what's happened to that. But ultimately it felt a bit flat for me. Now the ending, like I said, that pulled it back up for me. Obviously there is this mystery thriller subplot going on within the book. As much as I wanted to know the resolution to it, it was just a bit repetitive, and by the end of it, I didn't care. I didn't care what the outcome was going to be, you know? The outcome, what it was, I was a bit shocked, and I was like, oh my God. So that's why it went up to 3 stars. But then I just kind of came back down to earth, and I was like, okay, right, done and dusted. You know, the whole book was a bit flat, and I think it's because the book is around, I think, 576 pages. It could have been 300 pages. Like, a lot of the stuff in the middle was just, to me, it felt a bit pointless. It felt like it was dragged on a little bit, and I'm so sorry, I didn't gel with it. I also just want to add that I have quite a big thing on writing and writing styles, and Chris's style just wasn't really for me. I personally love flowery, descriptive writing. Like that, to me, I eat up all day every day. But I feel like this was just a bit too flowery. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but a lot of the times I was reading the sentences about 3 or 4 times because I could not get the gist of it. I needed more commas. That sounds so niche. I am a comma lover. If I could put a comma after every 3 words, I absolutely would. But Chris definitely needed to use more commas because I was just getting so confused because the sentences were so long, but because they were flowery, it kind of didn't make too much sense to me. But that could just be a me problem and I'm just not intelligent enough to understand what was going on. I don't think so. I'm so sorry, I was just a little bit disappointed with this one. So the next book I read in August was a photo finish by Elsie Silver. Of course, I did do a reading vlog on this, so I'm not going to go too much into detail on this book, but my final rating was 3 stars. So this is, of course, an interconnected series of the Gold Rush Ranch, and we have got Violet, who works on the ranch, and then we have got Cole, who is the ranch owner's brother. Again, this I thought was going to be a cowboy romance. I don't know how much I can say. This is just basically 2 people and we're going through their romance. I never know how to put romance books, especially ones like this, because there's actually not too much substance to them. It's just, you know, you're introduced to 2 characters in the book. They maybe like each other, they have their troubles along the way, and then happily ever after. So you kind of get the gist of what this book is. But basically, we've got Violet and Cole, and they actually met a couple of years before online. Now, that's absolutely fine. I actually met my husband online, so I thought, oh, I could get on board with this. I couldn't, because it was very, very creepy. And again, I'm not going to say too much, but Cole is in the military, so he has this kind of certain personality about him, rightly so, and he's actually keeping a little bit of a secret from Violet. And actually, if we would have known this secret a little bit further on in the book, I think I would have more empathy towards Cole, but ultimately it doesn't excuse the kind of worrisome behaviour he showed throughout this book. So as I mentioned before, they did meet online, but Cole was very guarded. But obviously they've been speaking to each other every day online. They're starting to gravitate and they're starting to have feelings towards each other. But the only problem being is Cole would like Violet to do spicy things, but he doesn't reciprocate them. And I'm sorry, I find that so weird. I believe as well, someone also mentioned to me that there may have been the topic of money, you know, handing over money for her to do these things. I completely forgot about that, and it made me 10 times more uncomfortable. And I don't know, the romance, it felt a little bit manipulative on Cole's side, and I didn't like it. But equally, Violet, she was just a bit childish. I don't know, the things that were coming out of her mouth near the end, I was just like, excuse me, what am I reading? Am I reading a children's book? Clearly not, because there is some very awkward, spicy scenes that I did not like reading. But I don't know, I wasn't sold on this one. I don't actually think this has even been a very valuable review, but I've already spoke about this in my reading vlog, so I don't want to go on too long about it, even though I feel like I have. But this just wasn't for me. I also went into this thinking it was a cowboy romance. There is no cowboys in this series. If you are buying the Gold Rush Ranch series for cowboys, just don't do it. There's no cowboys in it. There is no cowboys. This is basically the exact same structure as Off to the Races, like the exact same. And, you know, something happened at the end, like a trope that not many people like. I don't know about you, but I sometimes don't like saying tropes in books because I feel like sometimes they're spoilers. But anyway, something happened at the end. We don't like it. Well, majority of us don't like it. I don't think it was needed. It was an easy enough read. Not one I'm going to be thinking about in a positive light again. Yeah. Now, this is where it starts to perk up a little bit because my next read was Happy Place by Emily Henry, and in the end, I gave this one a 4.25 stars. Again, this was in my reading vlog, so I won't say too much about it, but Emily Henry, I'm not sure she can do any wrong. I absolutely love her as an author. So for this one, we've got Harriet and Wynne, and they are childhood lovers, basically. They have been together for a very, very long time, and they actually have the same friendship group who are also in their own couples. Every year they go on holiday to this same little cottage, But this year it's a little bit different because actually Harriet and Wynne, they're not together anymore. So while they're on this holiday, they fully intend to tell their friends that they're no longer together, they're not a couple anymore. But the cottage that they normally do their annual holidays in is actually being sold. So this is the last time that they're all going to be together in their happy place. And they don't want to disrupt that by telling them that they're no longer a couple. So what happens? They pretend that they're a couple. And obviously it's a romance. I think you can kind of picture what's going to happen, but Emily Henry does no wrong. I'm even smiling thinking about this book. I was hooked from the get-go. Harriet and Wynne, they were so destined to be together from the very start. Like, I was like, why the hell have they broken up? Because they are clearly perfect for each other. I kind of resonated as well with Harriet a little bit. And also, I felt like Wynne reminded me of my husband. Like, I don't know, I just really felt like I resonated with this book as them as a couple. So what I think Emily Henry does so well is kind of the past timelines. So obviously we jump from past to present to past to present. The past timelines I find in Emily Henry books just give so much depth to the main character's relationship. Like, the banter between them and in their past had me kicking my feet. But honestly, it just gives so much more value, I find, to their relationship and like why they're together, how they just connect, how they fit. And I love that about Emily Henry books. She also done that with You, Me on Vacation. And again, I completely just binge read that book. But I do love multiple timelines, so maybe I just know what I like. Also, the friendship group, it was so wholesome, so pure. Like, you could just see how they've all become friends because they just connected like a puzzle. And again, I do love reading about friendships. Like, there doesn't necessarily have to be a romance involved. I just find it so wholesome and so sweet. So that aspect I absolutely fell for. For the longest time, this was going to be a 5-star. Like, I did not have a single fault to say about this book. But then we got to, I would say, about the 60% mark. I feel like it could have been a little bit before, but I just chose to ignore it. But by the 60% mark, I just felt like one conversation could have solved all of their problems, you know? And I don't know. I don't do well with that. Like, I just think, have that conversation. Why are you skirting around everything? Just have the conversation and be happy, you know? And I also feel like the reason why they maybe broke up in the first place was a little bit of a cop-out. I don't know. Like, I know it's a very real issue and it's very, like, you know, it's very present in today's world. And I get that. Like, everyone has different emotions and how they deal with different emotions. But I don't know. I wanted a little bit more. But at the same time, I totally understand this is real for some people, but that is the reason why it kind of dipped. I kind of dipped from a 5 to a 4.5, but ultimately I think a 4.25 is the right decision. This was also a perfect summer read. I just love the way she writes. I love her so much. Next up, we had Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, and I gave this one 4 stars. This is actually my first ever Abby Jimenez book. It did not disappoint. I'm so excited to delve into more of her work. So we've got Alexis, and she is a doctor, and she comes from a long line of doctors, and she has to basically carry on this family legacy. So she's in a big city, she's very wealthy. And then we have got Daniel, and he is from a very small town. He is a humble B&B owner, and he just basically looks after the whole of his town. If anyone has a problem, he is there first in line helping them. One day, Alexis breaks down near the town that Daniel is in. And of course, who is there to be her knight in shining armour? It's Daniel. So when he helps her, she's on the road again and she goes to the nearest pub, which of course turns out to be in Daniel's town. They see each other, they have a bit of a conversation, and, you know, the rest is history. So then we are just going through the motions of their relationship, how they're trying to make it work despite having very different backgrounds. So if you watched my August TBR video, you would know I was a little bit apprehensive about this one because I heard that there was like an age gap going on. I ate it up. I actually ate it up. It did help that the age gap was kind of like a reverse, so she was the older one and he was younger, but it was at adequate ages, you know? Always helps. But I ate this one. Like, I was hooked. There are a few flaws in there for me, which I will go on, but majority of it, I just could not stop reading. I did find it a bit cheesy in some places, but I forgive it. Like, I was fully invested and I really wanted them to work out. Daniel, as our main character, he is a sweetheart. Like, that is a real man. I really liked reading about him. I just thought he was so sweet. Like, he deserved his happy ending. I did like Alexis, but sometimes I just questioned her actions, her decisions. Sometimes I just felt like she was a little bit silly. Considering she's supposed to be the older one in the relationship as well, I just was a bit like, I don't agree with you here. But again, it's all subjective, isn't it? Also, I did find the relationship part a little bit insta-lovey. I mean, I don't know. I'm all for a slow burn, but I was smiling throughout this book. So even though it was a bit insta-lovey, I kind of just overlooked it, apparently, because I absolutely ate it up. Like, I was smiling, I was kicking my feet, the banter between them, the way Daniel treats Alexis, like, it was just so cute. It was so wholesome. And actually, there is some deeper topics going on within this book. So maybe check your trigger warnings, but I do like how, obviously, it's a very cute, wholesome romance, but again, there are some deeper topics thrown in for like you to think about things that go on in real life, happens behind closed doors, and yeah, I really appreciated that. I did feel like this read like an Emily Henry book, but maybe just a little bit more fluffy. But again, I ate it up and I gave this one 4 stars. I think the next one is Yours Truly. I have it on my Kindle. I was so close to reading the next one, but then I thought, no, I have an August TBR to get through. But I am super excited to get onto Yours Truly. And I believe it's interconnected too, so always a plus. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this one. And so happy to finally say I've read an Abby Jimenez book. Just to pop in and say, if you are enjoying the video, please do like and subscribe. It would mean the world to me and I would love to have you. But let's crack on with the next read. This is where it goes downhill again, because my next read was How to Kill Your Family by Bella Mackie, and I rated this 2 stars. This was bad. This was really bad. I never like to give a 1 star because I do feel like someone's put time, effort and love into their book, but I do think this is going to be my worst book of 2025. I'm not sure anything's going to top it. Take that as you will. I'll give you a little rundown of the synopsis. I have to admit, I'm not even entirely sure what this book was about. I mean, obviously you can tell by the title what it's about, but it was just so discombobulated. Like, it was, I have no idea. But we have got Grace, and it starts off strong because she is in prison. I think you can understand why she's in prison from the title of this book. But basically, Grace has only been raised by her mother. Her father has basically been absent. He had an affair with Grace's mother and basically said, goodbye, I don't want anything to do with you, so deal with it yourself. But obviously, now that Grace is older, she wants to take her revenge, not only on her father, but the rest of her father's family. And that's what we're reading about. We're reading about her revenge path. Well, I thought we were reading about her revenge past, but I don't see much revenge happening. Yes, there was a few, obviously, murders going on. I can't remember the actual number, maybe 3. But majority of this book was waffle. Like, this book could have been 50 pages because the amount of waffling that was going on in this book, it was quite bad. And I just don't understand the point of the waffle to the book. There was a lot of talk about social issues, which is fine. I'm not against that. Like, I'm not a monster. I'm definitely not against that. But she doesn't delve into it. So she would talk about a social issue for about 2 sentences and not delve into it. And just have to, like, understand how that's relevant to the plot, even though it's not. Like, one of the social issues was that she doesn't like people with filler in their lips. sorry, what? What has that got anything to do about your revenge path? Because it didn't, you know. It was just, and how petty. I don't know if the author, I don't know. If I'm reading a book, I kind of want to escape. I mean, I know there are books with social issues and it's important for us to read, but I wasn't expecting it with this book. I do definitely understand now that kind of subgenre of books where there's like a female main character who's actually like a serial killer, but they tell it in a comedic way. It's not for me, because actually that comedic spin is just them being negative about everything, and you're supposed to find that funny. I don't. Maybe I don't have a sense of humour. Every page she was negative. I can't find a time when Grace was positive in this book. Not one single time. It was so draining. Like, the reason why I don't watch the news is because I don't want to be sad every day. Majority of the time, the news only shows the negative headlines and the negative stories. This was this book. Like, everything was so negative, and I just don't understand why. I feel like this has just been a ramble and you've not actually gained anything from this, and I'm sorry, but there was no structure to this book. Hardly there was any revenge, and if there was, and oh my god, also, there was some weird subplot of like her grooming someone underage. Granted, nothing actually happened. It was weird, and we're supposed to just gloss over that? I don't know. Grace, as our main character, she was so insufferable. Like, I get it. I thought we weren't gonna like this main character, which again, I quite like. I like not liking the main character. Adds more depth, adds more to the story. But Grace was just insufferable. It was just too much. It was honestly too much. And ultimately, it was just quite boring. With the title of the book, I was expecting a little bit more action. But no. It was just so boring, so insufferable, and there was just no plot. It was just so disjointed, and if I did DNF books, I think I would have DNF'd this about 50 pages in. But unfortunately I don't DNF books, and I can stand with my decision of a 2 stars, and ultimately this being the worst book I've read of 2025. The next book I read is Whispers in the Dark by Allison Gunn, and this was actually an e-arc, so I want to say thank you so much to NetGalley and Embla Books for sending this one over to me. But the best news is it's actually out already, so if you do like the sound of this one, then you can go ahead and grab it. And actually, I believe it's on Kindle Unlimited, so even better. So for this one, it's actually based on Appalachian folklore, which I've never read before. And my god, I will be reading more in the future because I was hooked. This one is about Rachel and Finn, and basically they are in a loveless marriage, and they recently moved to this really small, close-knit religious town who do not like outsiders. And Rachel is actually the chief of their police department, so townsfolk, they don't really respect Rachel and they do not want to cooperate with her. So Rachel is married to Finn, and he actually has his own troubles. And a couple of years before the present timeline, something tragic happens to the family that is still affecting them to this day. But not only that, they live right by a forest. And for some odd reason, children are going into this forest, but they are not returning. Or if they are returning, they are not returning as the same children they went in as. Sorry. That sold me right from the start. That absolutely sold me. And I have to say, this book did not disappoint. I gave this one 4 stars, and it was so creepy. It was so eerie, but in the best way possible. This was the perfect way to start like the spooky season, because obviously it's based on Appalachian folklore. I don't know too much about that. Obviously, being from the UK, we don't really learn anything about it or really do our own insights into it. But after reading this book, I done my own deep dive, and my god, nah, I'm fine fakes, I'm fine here in my house. But I do love anything to do with urban legends, so I kind of knew I was gonna eat this one up. But the atmosphere in this one, it was so tense, it was so suspenseful, it was so eerie, and obviously we're dealing with children who go into the woods. Children can be creepy anyway, like in horror movies, if there's like a child there, I'm scared for some odd reason, you know? And it was definitely the same in this book. Like, they are creepy. They are very, very creepy. The setting, it was perfect. It was so eerie. It felt sinister. Like, the town just felt like they had it out for Rachel from the very beginning. The air just felt thick. Like, how you can do that in a book, I don't know, but Allison Gunn nailed it. Like, it just felt like there was something coming at us from every angle. And I have to say, the action, like, it was non-stop. Like, I was hooked from the get-go, and I was essentially hooked until right from the very last page. I will say there was a slot in the middle, I would say from the 60 to 80% mark, where it kind of lost its pacing, but again, I think that was just because everything else happened so fast. I was aching for more. So it wasn't technically a bad thing, but I was just like, oh my God, come on, I need to get to the conclusion now. Our main characters, Rachel and Finn, I don't think they were supposed to be likable. Definitely with Rachel, I found myself not rooting for her at all. She's the chief of the police station there, so it was a very much bravado, I know best, I'm not going to listen to anyone else kind of attitude, which I don't really care for. But with Finn, I did feel a little bit sorry for him. Again, he's going through his own troubles, and what I did like about this book is there was deeper topics. There is substance abuse, we're talking about grief, we're talking about loss. I quite appreciated that within this book, and just adds a little bit more depth to the storyline personally for me. But I would definitely recommend this one, especially for the spooky season. Like, there was some points in this book where I was a bit like, oh my God, I don't think I've ever read this in a book before. Granted, I don't really read horror, and I'm sure there's much worse things out there. And to be fair, I would actually quite like to jump into the horror genre. So if anyone has any good recs, I would love to know them. But yeah, it was just, I feel like for me, the setting, the way that Allison Gunn described it was just perfection. Like, it was so eerie. I felt like I had to keep checking behind my back. It gave me that feeling, and I love that. That's exactly what I want. Definitely recommend. And as a reminder, it's on Kindle Unlimited. My next read was Animal Farm by George Orwell. 5 stars. This was incredible. Now, again, from my August TBR video, you might have guessed I didn't really know what this book was about. I've heard about it, I never read it in school, I just know that it's a classic and I've wanted to read it for some time. I knew that there was a farm and that the farm animals basically overthrow their owner to look after the farm themselves. That's all I knew. I didn't know anything else about it. Now, I realise that this has so much more substance to it, like any classic should, and I just loved it. Like, 5 stars. I firmly believe that everyone should read this at least once. So, like I said before, this is about a farm, and basically it has a very neglectful owner. He's not looking after them, he's not feeding them, and the animals decide they're going to overthrow him and take control of the farm themselves. And that is exactly what they do. And for the first couple of months, it turns out perfectly, you know, everyone's pulling their weight, everyone is equal, everyone is abiding by the rules. But as you can imagine, a few months down the line, power goes to people's heads. And maybe things are not turning out to be very equal. Some animals are actually pulling more of their weight than others. And that's how corruption starts. So this book has the undertone of describing maybe key figures in the Russian Revolution. Of course, we're talking about animals, but the animals are depicting a human, or at least human behaviour. So we have a dictator in here. We have someone who is dealing with propaganda. We have the honourable working man. And, you know, there are so many different types of people in this book that are obviously disguised as an animal. And for me, this is so clever. Considering this was written during like World War II, it's so relevant to today, and it's gonna continue to be relevant for the future. That is why everyone needs to read this book. This book is tiny, it's 125 pages, it will not take you long to read, but my god, the message is so powerful. This book discusses so many topics, you know, we've got capitalism versus communism, we have got the effects of power, greed, class. There is so much packed into this tiny book of 125 pages. And packed in a farm. There are so many issues in this book that is written in such a simple way. Like, yes, this is a classic. This does not read like a classic at all. So easy to digest. Every single page, it had me thinking about things, you know? That is a book that I love. If I'm constantly thinking about things, today's issues, social issues, a book is meant to make you think, right? This is it. This is it. But just because there are so many topics being discussed, it is still a book. So did I get attached to some of the animals? Maybe. Will you get upset near the end? Also maybe. You know, it's still a book and I still have a heart. But oh my god, this was just a chef's kiss. Like, honestly, please do pick it up. If there's one book I'm urging you to pick up through this video, it has to be this one. And also, can we just appreciate this? Like, look at this stunning edition. I feel so lucky. And then finally, to round off my August reading, I read Every Summer After by Carley Fortune. And unfortunately, this did not hit the mark for me. I rated this one 3 stars. So for this one, we have got Percy and Sam, and they are childhood best friends turned lovers. So we've actually got 2 different timelines. We have got the past and then we've got the present. But in the past, we have got Percy and her family, and they have moved to this summer house in a town called Barry's Bay. And her next door neighbour is Sam. And they hit it off basically instantly, and they become best friends. But obviously, as the summers go on, it evolves into a little bit more. But we start the book in the present timeline, and it turns out that Percy hasn't been back to this summer home for 12 years, which means she has not spoken to Sam in 12 years. It seems like there is one particular moment that broke them apart, and we don't know what that is. And we are going back and forth in different timelines to find out what that may be. And can they overcome it 12 years later? So this one got so much hype. I had such high hopes for this one, but this felt so flat to me. And I think the main point is I did not like Percy. Her as a character, she just was not likable, but it's written in a way that you're supposed to like her. And I'm sorry, I just found her so self-absorbed, so egotistical. Like, I just could not get on board with Percy, and I was not rooting for her one bit at all. And that really affected my reading experience. What I will say is I loved the setting of this book. So I've read this as kind of a wrap up to summer, and I think it's the perfect time to read it. Like, this did feel like a nostalgic summer holiday wrapped up in a book, you know? You've got like a summer house, you've got a lake, like it just felt so nostalgic, which is so weird because I can't say that's exactly what I'd done for a holiday, but it just gave me those feels, you know? Even though I disliked Percy, I did like our male main character, Sam. I thought he was very sweet. I think he deserved so much more. And that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. But he carried this book for me. Like, I was really rooting for him. I wanted him to have the best life he possibly could. Isn't it so strange how you get so involved in books? Like, he's not real. He's fictional. So why am I rooting for the best for him? Oh, I'm sorry. Also, in my opinion, I feel like this would have been so much more powerful if there was no spice. This book did not need spice in it whatsoever. I'm not actually too sure why it's in there. And actually, one of the segments for the spice was in the past, which again just made me feel a bit icky. Like, I didn't really want to be reading about this in their past when they're a lot younger, you know? And Percy's actions, like, what is she on? What world does she think some of her actions were good ideas, you know? But I don't know. And I'm just so surprised that so many people got on with this book. Like, the Goodreads rating for this book is 4.18. And I'm so confused as to how it's that high. Because she's really not likeable. And I would love to know if anyone else has read this book, did they like Percy? Because I'm actually shocked. She's so self-absorbed. Like, she doesn't think about anyone else. Like, she has no empathy at all. And we're supposed to just gloss over that. And I know obviously they're children at the time and you kind of live and learn. I'm not sure she did. And also there is something that happened in this book near the end, which personally I think is very obvious. The foreshadowing in this book, crazy. Like, every past chapter you knew what was going to happen. And I wasn't here for it. I just didn't like it. And the ending, again, I did not like. Like, I don't think that should have been the ending, but obviously it's not my book. So I can't decide how it ends, but I didn't like the ending. And quite frankly, maybe question Sam as well. But overall, I just don't know if I would recommend this. I don't know. I just feel like if this weren't set on, like, with the summer vibe and the summer house and the lake, I'm not sure I'd even rate it 3 stars, because that really pulled it forward for me. The actual storyline, I don't know. And I'm so sorry, because I know so many people love this one, but I felt a bit icky in places and didn't like the FMC, and I wasn't gelling with it. I really weren't. But yeah, that's what I ended August with. But on that note, that is my wrap up done. I actually thought I had a lot better month than what I did. I mean, I found my worst book of 2025, and I've also had like three stars. Not the greatest, but I did read 8 books, which is good for me. Here's hoping that September is a lot better. I'm excited for my September TBR. I'm super excited to go into the spooky season. So yeah, I have high hopes. But I would love to know how your August wrap up went. Do you have any books that you would love to recommend to me? Have you read any of the books on my wrap up? I would love to know. But on that note, I'm going to leave this one here. I hope you are in the middle of such a fantastic book, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.